Hello everyone. Today we are going to begin Zeitgeist, readings on society and culture, which you've got to study in the second semester. And the first chapter is by Perlis Buck. It is titled Should the Assassin of Gandhi Be Killed? This is an essay written by Perlis Buck in response to the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi. Should the assassin of Gandhi be killed? That is the title of the essay. It is a very small essay, of course, just one-page essay. So before moving on to the essay as such, I would like to introduce, I would like to talk a bit on Perlis Buck. Have you actually heard about Perlis Buck? See, many of us might have heard of Perlis Buck. Many of you might have heard of Perlis Buck in the sense that she is a Nobel laureate and a Pulitzer Prize winning author. And she is a writer who has explained, or who has tried to explain through many of her novels. She had tried to explain China to Americans. Almost in the 1930s, she has written lots and lots of works, including The Good Earth, for which she won the Pulitzer Prize. And she has tried to explain China to Americans. But more than that, more than a sort of an interpreter of China, more than a novelist in that sense, she did have other passions as well, other projects and other passions as well. Probably Buck was able to imagine and define multiculturalism long before the term multiculturalism came to be a widely accepted, widely known concept. So Perlis Buck's literary works, of course, comprises much of simple portrayals of Chinese life. But it does have a degree of innovation and a sort of experimentation of using the styles and strategies of modernist artists. So we can, of course, place, she's written lots and lots of other works which goes for dealing with lots of issues which is happening globally. So we could, of course, position her in the context of transnationalism, transnational humanitarian activism, women's rights activism, and civil rights activism. Moving on to her bio as such, she was born in 1892 in a small town of Hillsborough, which is in the eastern mountains of West Virginia. And Perlis Buck was always West Virginia's favorite daughters. Her mother and father, parents were missionaries, and as a result of which she was taken to China when she was almost a small child, and almost 6 months or so. And it was from China that she got her primary education. But then she got graduated from Virginia in 1914. And again went back to China and became a teacher there in English literature. In the meantime, she also took an MA from Cornell University in 1926. I'll just give you the names of some of her books. East Wind, West Wind, which was published in the year 1930. Good Earth in 1931. Sons, 1932. Actually, Sons 1932, and A House Divided in 1935. These three, The Good Earth, Sons, and A House Divided, they are trilogy, which is again published in the title The House of Earth. Then you have Dragon Seeds in 1942, Imperial Woman in 1956. She also has published lots of short stories like The First Wife and Other Stories, Far and Near, The Good Deed, and she has also published a non-fictional work about her mentally disabled daughter Carol, which is titled The Child Who Never Grew, that was published in the year 1950. And she's also written an autobiography, My Several Worlds, which was published in the year 1954. Of course, to her credit, there are lots of children's books as well. And we can say that she was the first American woman to win a Nobel Prize for Literature, and she remains one of only two women, the other being Toni Morrison, who to win both the Nobel Prize and the Pulitzer Prize. During the 1930s, though 1930s and 1960s, you had, though she wrote a lot of works, there was a relative obscurity for her writing, for her as a writer. But then it was in 1990s that she enjoyed a sort of her works enjoyed a sort of resurgence of interest. And as a most influential American author ever to write about China, now probably Pearl S. Buck enjoys some sort of a renaissance. As her friend and fellow best-selling author James Michener, he actually calls, quotation actually, she is a spokesman on all sorts of issues. Freedom of press, she talks about, freedom of religion, the adoptability of disadvantaged children, the future of China, especially the battle of women's rights for education. All these are her areas of interest. If you just go through some of the works written by, some of the essays written by Pearl S. Buck, we'll see that she was almost in touch with all the movements which was there in the American intellectual, social and political life. She was as probably being an advocate of many humanitarian causes. Pearl S. Buck joined forces with Raphael Lemkin to help him win support for his major initiative, that is the establishment of world's first genocide convention. And probably it was Buck's efforts and networks which provided him, which was quite indispensable, that proved quite indispensable to Lemkin in helping him ultimately succeed. So in the 21st century, we see that her literary attention had even started to attract the attention of Chinese government officials and scholars as well. Once they were quite dismissive of her work, but now probably they did realize and recognize the power of her novels to promote Chinese culture overseas. Now with this transnationalism and multiculturalism in the air, Pearl S. Buck does have a renaissance in that way. Now the essay that we have got to study, the essay is titled "Should the Assassin of Gandhi Be Killed?" Now I hope that I need not give you any sort of introduction regarding who Mahatma Gandhi is, especially in an India where violence looms over, and there are lots and lots of controversies regarding Gandhi and Godse and sort of things. Especially in that light, this essay would provide you with a new, with a very different light on how people across the globe did take Gandhi, or how people across the globe, how were they quite influenced by Gandhi. So there are lots and lots of intellectuals. Pearl S. Buck was just one amongst those intellectuals who are actually influenced by Gandhi and his ideals. Say for example, beginning with you have Aung San Suu Kyi, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr. and Albert Einstein, Rabindranath Tagore, even Barack Obama. All these people are those political, intellectual, social figures who are very much influenced by Gandhi's ideals, right? And his ideals, as you all know, are rooted in the concept of non-violence. Probably the crime, or the probably world would not be able to forget, the world will not be able to pardon, forgive, and forget the unpardonable crime that uh, history has committed on him. He was assassinated on 30th January 1948 in the compound of Birla Gandhi's house, which is now Gandhi Smriti. And he was assassinated by the Hindu nationalist and the volunteer of RSS, Nathuram Vinayak Godse. And we do have lots of controversies. We did have controversies regarding Godse and Gandhi and all in the recent years. Just can check it out as well. It was see that the day when Gandhi got assassinated, the light of, like Nehru said, according to Nehru, the light had gone forever, and we are of course left in darkness, groping in darkness. The assassination of Gandhi was not a national shock at all. It was a global shock. It was a global shock, and reactions were coming from all parts of the world, from people from all walks of life. And Perles Bach, though she had come to India, visited India a lot of times, she was not able to see Gandhi in person, because most of the time, as we all know, Gandhi would be in jail, and it was as if her wish, it still remains, or it is an unfulfilled wish. It was, of course, she always had a wish to meet him in person. Unfortunately, she couldn't, and yeah, she says of Gandhi, I quote, "He was right. He knew he was right. We all knew he was right. The man who killed him knew he was right." It is there in your essay. However long the follies of violence will continue, but they prove that Gandhi was right. Resist to the very end, but without violence. Of violence the world is sick. O India, dare to be worthy of Gandhi. Now, she, like Gandhi, had always opposed violence as a means of achieving an end. And according to Perles Bach, like Gandhi, she also says that violence only breeds violence. Wars breed more war. It cannot bring peace at all. It brings more and more wars. So this is actually an essay, very small essay, which focuses on the need for peace and love in the world, on the need for we people to get rid of the thought of violence, the thought of killing, the thought of murder and violence and hatred. All these things which looms in the air. Even now, when we think about the condition of India, or when we think about the condition of whatever things are happening all across the world, whether it is Palestine or any issue which actually we need not go even beyond India. If we are thinking about India itself, we see that the whole of the Indian population, the whole of the Indian nation is I mean, we do have this shadow of violence around us all the time, right? So in that particular context, I feel that this essay would be much more relevant. Yeah, so I'll just read it out. Gandhi is dead. His ashes are scattered in the waters and over the earth of India. The indomitable frame, the fearless spirit, the long years, the high purpose, all were ended so easily. It was over in one instant. The shot of a gun, and only silence is left. Silence and a handful of ashes. It's no wonder that the ignorant, the stupid, the inventors of atom bombs, the generals, the captains, the surgeons, the little soldiers are all the lovers of violence. All that they fear, all that they hate, all who rebel against them can be so easily ended. The movement of a finger upon a trigger, upon a button, a flash, a blast, and all that remain are silence and ashes. Today, 1,000,000 can be killed as easily as 1,000, and 1,000 as easily as one. See, now Perlesbach is talking about the instance of Gandhi's death. But through the instance of Gandhi's death, through the instance of reacting against the death of or the assassination of Gandhi, she is trying to address very fundamental things regarding the whole world, right? See, Gandhi is dead. So what happens when a person is killed? His ashes are scattered in the water and over the earth of India. The whole of the earth is filled with the ashes of Gandhi. He was an indomitable frame, a fearless spirit, the long years, the high purpose. But see, Gandhi was a person who had taken India to freedom. When he was behind all the struggles that we Indians, or all the struggles that had happened before independence, he was the spirit behind everything. And what happens, one instance, one moment, you just pull your trigger and nothing is the same. The whole of the purpose that he had, the mission and vision that Gandhi had of India, all ended within a moment. It was just over in a second. You are no more. Gandhi was no more. Just the shot of a gun, and just what is left is silence. Why? And Perlesbach says, why are people who are so ignorant, so stupid, so those people who invent atom bombs, who are the generals, the captains, all these people who are in the authority, they are actually lovers of violence. They feel that all the things that they are afraid of, they could just pull a trigger and end it. They feel that all those things that they do not love, they hate, they just pull a trigger, they just make a bomb blast, they just blast it out, and that's the end of it. That is what is happening in the whole world right now. Those whom you are afraid of, you are afraid of somebody, you hate somebody, what happens is you just take a gun and shoot. That's it. You just throw a bomb and blast it, and everything ends there. So what in today's world, what happens is you can kill anybody, any n number of people within a fraction of a second. And see, the killings are done by those people who are afraid of people, who are afraid of of the world, right, of living. Gandhi was only one. Now she is actually focusing her attention to Gandhi. Gandhi was only one. His voice was single, always gentle, always reasoning. It was the voice of conscience in our turbulent life. He was right. He knew he was right. We all knew he was right. The man who killed him knew he was right. However long the follies of the violence continue, they but prove that Gandhi was right. Non-violence is the only common sense that human beings can have. We die so easily. Our bodies are so soft and unprotected. The brain, the heart, the soul are perilously lodged. We cannot wait for peace to be made, for arguments to be settled, for the quarrelsomeness of selfish men to subside. Before that settlement comes, life is over. At all costs, Gandhi said we must refuse to use violence. Resist to the very end, he said, but without violence. Now, for Perlesbach, she says that Gandhi was the only voice that we had, a voice which was so gentle, which was so logical, so reasoning, the voice of the conscience in the turbulent life and the chaotic life that India was facing before independence. He was right. He was always right. Everybody was aware that he was right. Even the person who killed him knew that he was right. Right? And she says that non-violence is the only thing, the ideal that Gandhi had upheld throughout his life was the only common sense that human beings can have. War cannot bring about peace. Hatred cannot bring about love. Violence cannot bring about peace. It is non-violence, it is love which can bring about peace in the society. Now, she says, we die so easily, our lives are so vulnerable, our lives are so precarious, so unsafe. We cannot say go and make peace all the time. We cannot wait for arguments to get settled. The only thing that we can do, once you settle the argument, before the settlement comes, before the argument gets settled, you die, right? So what happens is, whatever happens in the world, do not take recourse in violence. Just don't go for violent methods. Resist till the end, but without violence. To the world, confusing violence with power, these words seem too simple to be true. Yet truth is always simple. Men find confusions and entanglements because they are afraid of simple truth. But truth is not changed. So it doesn't mean that you are so powerful and you should exert violence upon people. That is not the case. Why do you confuse violence and power? See, everything is so simple. Truth is so simple. And truth is so very fundamental and simple than an atom actually. An atom is something which would destroy the whole world, and truth is something which would give life to the whole world, right? Consider the young Hindu who sits in prison today, who is Nathuram Vinayak Godse, who so heavily guarded because he killed Gandhi. Now, is he to die or live? What should we do with him? If we are to take Gandhi literally, I think he always meant to be taken literally. That man should not die by violence. We should not punish him. We should not we should not seek for any violent means to kill him or for a crime. Suppose that he should be released. Now, the only punishment that we can give is to leave him alone, right? And Gandhi was often in prison, and probably Gandhi would not want Nathuram Vinayak Godse as confined in prison, because Gandhi was a person who had always been in prison, so he understand the life which is confined in prison. So could he escape what he has done? So if at all we leave Nathuram Godse, will he escape from the guilt of what he has done? I think never. Whenever he went among his own people, none would receive him. Will any people accept Vinayak Godse? He could not hide, for he would be watched for and dreaded. Everybody would watch for him. Everybody would dread him. Nobody would go near him. None would want to touch his hand, the hand that killed Gandhi. The blood stains of killing Gandhi would be there in the hands of Godse. So he is not going to, so nobody is going to touch his hand. Nobody is going to, go near him. Women would be afraid of him. Children would be taught to despise him. So where could he find home and friends? So he cannot find home and friends anywhere. There would be no place for him to live peacefully after killing Gandhi. He would be an outcast. He would be ostracized. He would be haunted by Gandhi's own spirit. There is a probability that Gandhi's own spirit, which lives in other men, which lives in those men who are working for Gandhi's ideals of freedom and safety, that would destroy that spirit which lies in other people, in Gandhi's followers, that would destroy Godse. The utter goodness of Gandhi's despair, Gandhi's spirit, working upon human conscience, that would drive men to destroy themselves from despair or to be born again. The world longs for goodness. So now she moves her attention to the general aspect, right? The world always aspires for goodness. The people, they are searching for righteousness. There is no weapon, no bomb, so powerful as the force of a great good spirit. India will live and become great in our world only as her people use this priceless force, the force of non-violence, which the life of Gandhi exemplified for them. The world always needs goodness. It always needs love, goodness. Not hatred, not violence, but peace. And for that we need to we need to adopt non-violence as a means. In that example, Gandhi's secret. The secret of resistance lied in non-violence. He did what he told others to do. When people saw that this was true, they believed in him. Gandhi has done his part. It now remains for the people, that we should decide whether we should go for violent methods to get things done. So it is now upon the people of India to see or to practice what Gandhi has taught us. Indeed, it is the only way in which India can fulfill the promise of a greatness, of violence. The world is so sick of violence. By hatred and quarrels, we are surfeited and poisoned. The hearts of the peoples turn away from the noise of militarists and warmongers. We long for peacemakers. We do not want war anymore. We want peace. We do not want, or we, the people of India, we, the people of the whole world, do not want the noise of militarists, the terrorists, the warmongers, anybody. We just want to live in peace. We just want to live in as a community, as a human community, bereft of all those religious, communal, regional, national disparity. We should all come together, bring about peace, bring about love instead of hatred, instead of violence, so that we all Indians would be worthy of Gandhi. Thank you all.